Welcome back to Mac's Garage. Today I'm going to start going through a 79cc horizontal shaft Predator small engine, which is the Harbor Freight kind of junky little cheap engines that you can buy for like $130. I tried to find service information for this engine and I actually emailed Harbor Freight to see if they had any. It appears it does not exist, so I'm going to kind of do my best. The one that I'm dealing with has been apart several times, has no compression, so I'm not even going to try to start it right now because it's got no compression. It's not going to go. This video is probably going to just stop at the teardown, and then I'll do other videos to show the reassembly. Again, there is no service information, so this is just doing things in the way that my brain says they should be done. Let's get started. Alright, so here's our engine. No compression, nothing. Rolls over. It makes rattling noises while it rolls over, which is always a sign of good things. So we're just going to go ahead and start tearing this thing apart. The first thing we're going to do is pull the exhaust, as it's big and in the way. Alright, so to get this other bolt off, we're going to have to remove that guard, which is an 8mm. Yep. Okay, so this guard is part of the cooling system for the engine. It'll help guide air over top of everything else. And it looks like it just slides in on the other side. So we'll set those off to the side. Okay, continue removing the muffler. Okay, so the muffler and heat shield assembly all come off as one unit. You can see that this one's had the spark plug wire pulled out of it, but there was a plug in there, so it should have been capable of building compression. It just wasn't. Don't worry about that. Okay, next thing I want to do is remove this fuel tank, which looks like 3 8mm. Okay, looks like we got a fuel line connected there. So if you've got nothing in your tank like this one, you can use pliers to do that, to remove that clamp. Oh, look, that spins in and out too. Alright, so rather than remove it in the way I was planning to, I'll take it out this way so it's sure to leak later. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a filter there. Tank is off. Set that 3 bolts off to the side. Now, if they were still assembled, I found several pieces in the box with this engine. This, I'm guessing, probably goes on the back side of the flywheel. Springs and piece of linkage run from the throttle control assembly and work in there some way. I'm gonna have to try to figure those out because they were already off of here. So if you still have these hooked up, take a picture. They're really critical to the way this engine runs when you're done with it. So if you have the opportunity, take a picture, see where that stuff goes. In my case, I'm just going to set this all off to the side because it was already removed. The air filter looks like two quick screws. I'm also assuming this one's probably empty. I pulled the dipstick, there's nothing on it. Like I said, these have been taken apart a few times, so my guess is there's nothing in it. Wow, these are a lot longer screw than I would have expected for that job. Probably should be a filter in here, but there's not. What is that, a 10? Okay, so now we'll pull the carburetor off, which is going to be held on by these two bolts behind the air filter area. Okay. Again, if you notice, I'm keeping all the fasteners with the parts that came off of. That'll just make it easier to figure out where everything goes later. The carburetor itself pulls off of here, and this plate was back behind it, so we'll assume that was correct and set those on to the side as well. We can leave those in there. This tube came out pretty easy. This is our spark plug wire, which these, if you look down inside, you probably can't see it. There's basically a spiked screw or a tapered screw. So this is going to actually go, we'll take the seal off, put it onto the wire first. Slide it back, and then you can maybe see that screw a little bit better. Take our screw, and we thread that in, and as that threads in, the core of this spark plug wire is where the electricity passes for the spark plug itself. So as we tighten that up, that should work, and we pull our seal back out over top of the boot. Alright, so now that wire is reassembled, other than this piece, which goes on there. Okay, spark plug is finger tight, so you'll probably need a wrench for that. I obviously didn't. Okay, next thing I'm going to start trying to do is take this area apart, the recoil and guard area, and I'm not sure how this one works. Sometimes you can take them all off as one unit. Sometimes we take the recoil off first. So in this particular case, I'm going to pull the recoil first. Okay, so now the recoil is off. We'll set those screws in there. Which this one probably wouldn't really matter. You could probably take it all off as one assembly. Just by looking at it. Ooh, that one's finger tight as well. That one actually got tightened. By tightened, I mean possibly cross-threaded. Okay, we take this off. There's some wiring here that should have been hooked up somewhere. Looks like probably up in there. Obviously it wasn't, so we'll just kind of, it's another one we'll have to figure out on the way back together. Put that all in there. Next I'm going to pop the coil off. Whoops. Take the coil. Set that off to the side as well. Still makes some weird kind of clunky noises. Let's see here. At this point I think I'm going to start taking the top end apart, so we'll pull the valve cover first. Now this is where I suspect we may start to find the reason why the compression isn't happening. My guess is that it's got to do with camshaft timing or valve train, although who knows, it could have a broken rod inside of it too. Okay, so we've got our screws out of there. That one comes off nice and easy. Got a cork gasket. I haven't seen one of those in a while. Okay, so I'm going to roll this thing over, and what should happen is these valves, oh look at that one, that one's opening, closing, that one's opening and closing. No idea if they're happening at the right times or not. Oh look at that, that's finger tight too. You always want to make sure your valve train is adjusted nice and loose. Oh, not even the valve train. The whole rocker stud just came out of the head. And this one's doing the same thing. Cool. So now we pull our push rods because they come right out. Set them off to the side. These are 12 mil. Okay. Okay, so now we got our head off of here. We can look at these things, and the valves look like they're in pretty good shape. This thing's maybe never been run. Okay, as we roll this thing over, we can see that the piston is, I'm probably in the way, you can see the piston is moving. Now I don't know that this is necessarily right, but the arrow is pointed towards the valve train area. We'll take our head gasket, set it off to the side. Really should replace that, but probably won't. Alright, now before I take the case apart, I am going to try to remove this flywheel. With how loose everything else has been, I may be able to just remove it. Nope, not gonna happen. Okay, so got some options here. One of them is to take a small pry bar through the window here. Nope, that's not going to work. The easiest way to pull this is going to be to get an impact and spin that off with an impact. I will try a flathead screw or a Phillips screwdriver down into one of the counterweight holes, and I'm going to kind of jam it up against this mount for the, this mount is for the cooling fan pins, or not the cooling pins, but the this thing, the fan shroud. There we go. Okay, so now loose. Take that, set it off to the side. Our fan then falls off. Now these are keyed, so there's a hole in this thing and it stays on that particular spot. The way that we pull these is to use a 3-jaw puller and pull back on them. Another way that you can pull these, and there's a risk of breaking the engine, so don't do this as one you care about, is to grab a decent pry bar to pry up and a little hammer to tap down. And we'll just put the nut back on there so we don't screw up the threads, and there we go. Flywheel is removed. Now if you have a 3-jaw puller, you get back on the back side of this and there's a nice centered portion there. This is a tapered fit. Some of them will be on in a more aggressive manner than this one. So we'll set our fan back on there, set everything back together so it's in order. Okay, so flip it down kind of that direction. Again, if you're not sure, you should check the oil, make sure it's drained at this point. And now we're getting into the part where we should be able to figure out why this thing has just no compression. Okay, get all the bolts out of there. There is 6 of them. Pop this out. And the cam fell out, which is not super awesome, because I would have liked to know where it was at. My guess is that my guess is that this was installed improperly, and it kind of looks like that was probably the case, but we don't know for sure anymore because this fell out. Okay, the lifters are now falling out the bottom. Should try to keep them matched with the lobe that they were on, although I pretty well guarantee these ones are not. Our gasket here is actually in really nice shape, so we'll just kind of set it off to the side. Now we can roll our piston where we can actually get to it with a wrench, which is probably right about there is going to be our best spot. The rod is actually nice and tight here. That one we can't fit a ratchet on. Just grab a wrench. Okay. Take our rod off of here. If you look, it's got some stuff there that keeps it from being assembled out of. Oh, look at that. Okay, so that's a problem I'm not going to be able to fix. There are no rings on this piston. None. Shoot. That sucks. I'm kind of thinking this rod's put in wrong. Maybe not. No, it's fine. So we'll put our rod back together here. There's no making this run without rings. Okay, before we pull this crankshaft out, we gotta knock our key out of there. Okay, so we'll grab our small chisel. I'm just gonna kind of lay this up so that the crankshaft is sitting down, get underneath the keyway, and gently knock it out. Okay, once that keyway is out and our crankshaft slides right out, I'm going to put the keyway back in its home. Up inside of here, this is our governor, so what happens, and you can almost see it doing it. If I spin this little gear inside of here, which is keyed to the crankshaft, As I do that, you may be able to see this lever move. Yep, okay, so what happens is a fly weight inside of here, the faster you spin it, the more it presses on this right here, which works the governor. So the higher you rev it, the more it pulls back on the carburetor. I'm not gonna take that out right now. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with this. I'll probably put it back together, but not having rings is gonna kind of suck. I can see on the box there that it's a 52mm bore, and I'll try to find where I can get rings for this, but who knows. So that's it. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, do it. I will put this back together. Whether it's capable of running or not, we'll see. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.